Welcome, everybody. Let's call this July 17th meeting of the Salem Airport Advisory Commission to order. And Jody, if you wouldn't mind doing the roll call for us.
I can do that. Douglas Bernizer. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I skipped it. Chair John Foley.
Present.
Douglas Bernizer.
Present.
Mike Morrow.
Present.
Kat Pence, who is not here, I believe, who is excused. Sorry. Colonel Edgecombe.
Here.
Let's see, Counselor Nishioka, who is also excused. And Arnold Verstoif.
Present.
And then we have guest Rob Broyhill, Tower Manager.
Hello.
Did you call Chris Burkholder? I didn't hear Chris's name.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I skipped over that one. Christopher Burkholder.
He's absent.
He's also excused, I believe. And then
All
in
right.
staff, we have John Pascal and Mark Bechtel
And Aaron.
and Aaron Eisen. Excuse me. Sorry, Aaron, you're hiding back there.
I'm blocking. Aaron.
On purpose.
All right, thank you very much. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. And has everybody present had a chance to review the agenda? And are there any additions or corrections needed? I will note the one that John just pointed out about the date of the next meeting. We'll get that corrected. Any other edits? If not, could we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor of approving this meeting's agenda as distributed, say aye.
Aye.
All right, I think that's unanimous approval. So we'll go on to the next agenda item, which is approval of the minutes from the May 15th meeting. Has everyone received and reviewed the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes.
And are there any corrections or additions needed to the minutes? All right, seeing as none, then if I could get a motion to approve the minutes as distributed.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of approving the minutes from the May 15th meeting, say aye.
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 All right, unanimous again. We're batting 1,000. All right, we move right on to the next agenda item, which is public comment. I think we're still accepting public comment from online. Have we gotten any?
Not have any public comment.
And,
I don't see anybody from the public here or online.
all right, well, we can move right on in to the tower reports, or the tower report and the airport manager report. Rob, would you like to give the tower report?
Sure. Good evening. Rob Broyhill, Air Traffic Manager. I'm going to try to share my screen here, see if it works on my end. And can you see that?
Not yet.
Okay. Sorry about that. Entire screen window. Let's try that.
Oh, something's happening.
There we go.
No,
See my PC ourselves.
I think we see ourselves.
I'm so sorry. I'm used to using Teams here. So, well,
Rob, it does look like you did share your screen, but you were sharing the Zoom. So I don't know if you want to just move things aside.
I think I'll just go in the report and I'll work on this later here. So,
All right.
yeah. Okay. So we'll go in traffic count. So January through June of this year, we have just shy of 1,500 more operations this time last year. And then we had kind of a little better numbers in May than we did June. And I believe that's because of the hot weather we had in the afternoon. The traffic slows down a bit there. Air carrier operations are up at 236 for the year, which is increasing all the time. Our air taxi is 1,861. Our general aviation local and our itinerates are pretty close. They're pushing 9,000 in that area piece. So just kind of recap on the local, it's a lot of pattern work, a lot of traffic coming and going. So that's picking up. We're seeing a lot more training early in the morning, and when it's not so hot, it actually is pretty steady throughout the day. Our military ops are pretty steady. We're just shy of 1,900 for the year. And then our transition, our overflights are just about 900. So we got a lot of satellite airports. So they tend to head our direction going to Corvallis, Aurora, or Independence. So we get a little bit of traffic that way. Recapping on our MORs, I think we had discussed up until April. So May and June, just to recap that, alert ones, anything having minor difficulties or mandatory occurrences in aircrafts. Alert twos are the major challenges. Then the 3 would be a crash or probability of a crash. So fortunately, we only had one alert 1 this year, or this last 2 months, and that was a Bonanza en route to Salem. He had an alternator issue. Airfield rescue firefighting was notified. They responded, and the aircraft landed without incident. Moving on to construction, we're getting a new fire suppression put into the facility right now. It's about a 2-week project, so you'll see a lot of activity in and out of the building next 2 weeks. The current one's still there, so they're have to install the new one before they can disable the old one. So it's a lot of extra work for them. And then that should be finished about the 26th of July, and then we'll move into a new HVAC system on the 31st. So we'll have a crane in the parking lot, about 0700 local to 1200 local on the 31st. And they'll remove the old one and put the new one on top of there. So any questions?
All right, well, thank you, Rob. John, I know you appended quite a lot of material to the report. Is there anything you'd like to highlight before we maybe ask some questions?
I don't think I have anything new other than what's in the report, and I did attach the solar feasibility study results, which was lengthy. But otherwise, no, I don't have anything new to add from what's been documented. It looks quite a bit like the last report because most of the projects are still in process underway. But yeah, I was happy to field any questions.
I do have one, just on the, last time we got a little update on the master plan and our progress towards the letter we were gonna send.
Yes.
And I wonder if we can.
There's no progress on that to speak of. I think that we're looking at a city council workshop in the fall, and I don't know if we have a specific date for that yet. Do you remember, Mark?
I don't know if we actually ever settled on that.
I think we're still looking for a date where the city council has an opportunity for us to do a workshop, and that will be their opportunity to just get waist deep into this entire thing. So the letter that the AAC voted to approve that we've been kind of holding until the report comes in from the consultants, which I still don't have because now it needs to be modified to include any impacts from terminal growth or ramp growth. I expect that we'll have that in August. So I think probably in the September AAC meeting, we'll revisit that letter.
Okay.
I know we talked about rewording it to include all things runway related, not necessarily just the costs. So I think we're still a couple months away, and then that workshop should be sometime in the fall. So when I have that actual date, I'll be able to share that.
Okay, thank you.
Dance in the next meeting. So.
Sorry, I have one more. If you don't mind. The question that keeps coming up is, are we gonna have open meetings anytime soon?
Open meetings for
Public?
For airport advisory commission, they're open now.
Oh,
People
okay.
can come in. It's a small room, but we don't have a lot of room here. But if there are folks that want to come and visit in person, they can let me know ahead of time. Just make sure we don't overstaff the room, but they can join virtually or welcome to.
Okay,
come in
just
person.
that's not what it says on the
Right.
agenda, so. It says it's conducted with a virtual component with in-person attendance by the governing body. Interested persons may view the.
Jody, can you take a note? We could take a look at that and just make sure that what I'm saying is correct. I know
thing.
Ron Peters has been a couple of times, and I think we can have in-person attendance if.
Sure thing.
So.
And just to confirm, are you asking about these meetings or
Yes.
Okay.
These meetings. So the Salem Airport Users Group, as things come up, people ask if they can come, and so far we've said you have to register beforehand and virtually only, so.
Uh,
Yeah, we'll double check on that and make sure that
All right,
that
thank
is
you.
allowed. I think it is, you know, that.
No, you didn't
At
interrupt.
the other board commissions, you.
That's a
I
really
think
good
you're
question.
welcome to have, I mean, this room is actually fairly.
Yeah, we can fit, you know, a few people.
Seats and chairs.
I believe the standard is to essentially notify us ahead of time that you'll be present. But that is what's written at the bottom of the calendar invites that I issue the public notice for. And then also it gives my email, the Salem Airport at cityofsalem.net email for people to notify. That is a new development because previously it had an unknown phone number that I didn't know where it goes to. So I've replaced it with that email to make it more accessible.
So everything that's on the bottom here, Jody, that's like a boilerplate for the city boards and commissions?
Yes.
Okay,
Except
I
for that
recall that,
email.
I recall that as long as we could provide a hybrid option that we could have people in person, but if you'll help me double check that.
I will, yes.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Other questions for the airport manager? I have a couple. Arnaud, was there? I didn't know if you had any questions. No, I had a couple. I noted in your report, kind of the successful launch of Velo's service has kind of opened the door to significantly more potential federal funding for.
Correct.
So I thought that was really kind of cool. I never heard that when we were talking about this a couple of years ago, when we were worried about costs and how we would pay for all this stuff. But that seems like a very nice development now that we've got that, I guess, primary commercial airport status.
There's a 2-year lag, so it won't become available till 2026, but based on reaching 10,000 employments in 2024, which we've already done.
And assuming that the service continues on a pace the way it has been, if that federal grant money were to come online, is that able to be used for things like terminal expansion, or is it strictly for airport infrastructure, taxiways, runways, lighting?
It would include terminal
Okay,
facilities too. So yeah, capital improvement projects. They're primarily geared towards commercial service. So we think primary runway, primary taxiways, commercial parking ramp, and commercial terminal, but other taxiways are still eligible. Then it's just a matter of prioritization in the FAA system.
Could you use it on runway 16 when it gets to the?
It's not an AIT eligible runway. So far, all the taxiways connected to that runway are still eligible. There's talk of them starting to, as they're right sizing airports, to take some of that away too. But to date, all of our taxiway systems are still eligible. We just recently did, and I actually did not put it in the report. It just occurred to me. I think we just got the results last week. In addition to the state of Oregon's pavement management program that they do on behalf of all the Oregon airports every 4 years, we also paid the same consultant to do a stability analysis of all of our primary air carrier routes, because we have heavy aircraft operating on them now that a lot of our facilities weren't designed for. And so we have another layer of information that we can use to talk to the FAA about priorities of rehabilitations or reconstructions on taxiways. Some of our taxiways, for instance, taxiway Foxtrot, which leads right to the departure end of the south runway of 31, is not stressed for heavy aircraft. It doesn't mean it's going to come apart in 2 years or 4 years, but it's going to deteriorate much faster with heavy aircraft operating on it several times a week now. So that analysis will go with the pavement condition analysis, which is a surface analysis, alligator cracking and those sorts of things. And that will help inform the decisions that we make on which pavement surfaces we need to rehabilitate in the next 5-year CIP.
So we narrowed the runway a couple of years ago. Is there any chance that now we have commercial?
That's a great question. So it wasn't narrowed. It's still 150 feet wide. However, the center 100 feet is the only eligible portion because it's what's considered a B2 runway. Now that we're going to have greater than 500 operations of a C3 sized aircraft, we will then be eligible to go back to 150 foot wide runway. So It's unfortunate it didn't happen in 2018 when we rehabilitated the runway, but
That's good.
at the rate we're going, Rob said there was already 236 operations, so I think it's pretty safe to say we'll eclipse 500 this year. And that's just available flights. We've got other 737s that land for other purposes and other heavier aircraft. So likely that runway in the next master plan, as we finish up the master plan, that runway will revert to a C3 sized runway, which would be 150 foot wide, which is great. So as we're right sizing our airport, we're also now having to grow it a little bit and look at some pavement surfaces we didn't anticipate in the last CIP prior. It's a moving target. A lot of things are a moving target right here.
But it's good, and it seems like
All good.
we're starting to see doors opening at the airport because of the success of the
Yeah,
commercial.
and as you indicated, the additional funding that starts in 2026 is really going to go a long way. It goes from our minimum annual entitlement of 150,000 now becomes 1.3 million. So it's a huge increase, like a 900% increase. That money goes a long way. 150,000 doesn't go very far on an airport. Typically, we would have to roll over all of these years just to do one project in every third or fourth year. But now we're populating every year with projects. So we're gonna do a lot more, a lot faster than we did prior.
Is city council aware of this so they can
They are.
recognize it?
It was one of the things I think that really kind of pushed the air service and the renovation of the terminal through them understanding that there's more federal grant money available to rehabilitate the entire airport based on having commercial service. That's really the FAA, their program really is geared towards passenger and cargo traffic. General aviation is important, but when you're moving people and cargo across the country, that's really where they want to put the bulk of the money. And so that really benefits us now in ways that we wouldn't have otherwise. And they approve our CIP every year, so they'll see the out years with the greater amounts in there. Now, that's assuming air service continues to survive and thrive. We know that we'll be eligible in 26 because in 2024, we've already eclipsed 10,000 enplanements. So that's the threshold every year that you have to meet to continue to be a primary commercial servicer. We are now one of 6 in the state of Oregon.
Great. All right. I had another question. I noticed we have a whole bunch of new hangar ground leases that we're looking to initiate. I think it was like 8 or something like that.
They're going to be round 8, I think 8 to 12 when we're all done. I think we have 3 that there are 2 that I'm writing staff reports for the August 12th meeting. One, and I have a third one that's an amendment to an existing lease. The others are in various stages of design and site planning and those sorts of things. So they'll be coming along over the next probably 12 to 18 months. Mostly on the south end of the airport in the corporate hangar area. Also a couple on either side of Cap Pence's hangar, actually behind the B-17. There's a couple of fields over there. So there are a couple of smaller hangar developments over there. Those are probably another year or 2 away. And then I've got some requests for some other larger hangars that we can't currently accommodate. So now we're shifting our focus to the property on the east side of the airport between the National Guard and Garmin, where the new tower is going to go. The downside of that lot is there's currently no connector taxiway. But I have somebody that reached out to me today that wants to do a 120 by 120 business jet hangar for like 4 or 5 business jets. So we're going to meet with that individual and talk about maybe building in a common use taxiway that then could be credited back or something along those lines. So we're getting pressed for space for larger business jet hangars, and now the demand is really grown in the last probably 3 years. That's more requests in the past 12 months than I've gotten in the past 12 years.
I was going to ask, that was my follow-up question. So do you know what's driving this increased demand, or is this that's behind it?
Anecdotally, I think it's a couple of things. One, just businesses wanting to get out of the Portland metropolitan area. Aurora is pretty well built up, and that's south of the Portland metro area. I think just the organic growth in this valley of businesses and companies and people moving into the area with aircraft, including private individuals. So I think that feels like the bulk of it. But yeah, I don't have any actual statistics as to where suddenly all these folks are coming from with multi-million-dollar business jets. But
There's a lot of business jets on the field all the time, man.
yeah, even our transient traffic, I think Rob would probably tell you, again, we don't count those separately. We just count them as general aviation, but anecdotally, I can tell you there's a lot more business jet traffic really since COVID. We saw an uptick in COVID, which you expect, but then it really hasn't decreased since. I mean, Lowe's stores was just flying in today with the G5. Costco warehouse was in here with the G650 last week. Caterpillar and Union Pacific Railroad, there's a lot of companies flying business jets in. So, and we've got property. I know it's being taken up quickly, but a lot of airports don't have the space to develop larger business jet anchors. We've had some for quite a long time, and that's starting to fill up very quickly. So, and one individual we're working with actually wants to do a neighborhood of kind of medium-sized hangars, so like 80 by 80s, 60 by 60s, and 80 by 80s, because that's where most of the requests that I get are for those medium size, like for big twins or small citation jets. But we don't really have any space that can accommodate those wingspans, except down in the South corporate area. So he's looking at a corner where he can maybe do a neighborhood of hangars. He can fit 4 80 by 80s or 60 by 60s, as opposed to just big hangars. So we're trying to use our limited space to accommodate as many hangar developments as we can. So some of those leases, while it may be one lease, it might include 6 hangars or 8 or 10 hangars. So we could end up with a dozen or more in the next couple of years. That part is moving very quickly. So keeping the real estate department busy.
Good. Other questions from the commissioners for John?
I'm good.
Anybody? All right, I'll ask one last thing ahead on my list. Let's see. Last meeting, we talked briefly about automated landing and parking fees. Any developments on that since then?
We have to get back to revisiting that. It's on the list of things to do, but we haven't made any progress towards that. I did talk to the representative of the company that we met with a couple months ago. They're onboarding some other airports in the Pacific Northwest, so she's giving me a list of some of those airports. So I still have yet to reach out to those airports and just kind of ask how they structured their program and what success they've had and kind of revenue they've generated. So I want to gather some more information and some more facts before we take it up the chain and bring it to the AAC and talk to the tenants and get an idea of how other airports are managing theirs. Kind of pushback they had. They have, it's a 12.5 and over. Is it just business jets? Is it, but how are they structuring the program? So just trying to fit all that in with all the other projects that are going on. But it's an important piece because it's a revenue source that we're not capturing. Aaron and I were just talking about the other day. I mean, Lowe's warehouse taxis their Gulfstream by, and there's no landing fee and no parking fee, and it's just lost revenue every time a plane goes by. So I kind of mentally calculated in my head. And I kind of thought I should run one of those old gas station hoses across taxiway Charlie. So every time he goes by, it makes that ding ding sound. And I think I can just sort of add up how much lost revenue this taxi. But
Well, if you were mentioning the 737s that land,
there are some,
so those are giving us wear and tear that is not being
and
compensated.
that's the big thing, especially with bigger business jets. There's wear and tear on our pavement surfaces. A Gulfstream's probably up to close to 100,000 pounds. So a lot of our pavement surfaces again are not stressed for that weight of aircraft, and there's zero revenue. Essentially, there's fuel flowage, so if they take fuel, we do get 8 cents on the gallon. But and that's exactly why a lot of airports are going this direction. It's just a missing revenue source for aircraft that are actually wearing and tearing your pavement surfaces and your paint. The rubber buildup just by itself can be pretty significant in a lot of traffic. You do need to revisit that as the months are ticking by right into July.
All right, any other questions for John? If not, we can move on to the next agenda item, which was action items, of which we had none scheduled for this meeting. So we can move on to items for commission discussion. And I didn't have anything listed here. I guess if there were other things folks wanted to bring up that we had discussed as an opportunity, floor is open for discussions.
Those military operations numbers are rookie numbers. You gotta get those numbers up.
Well, they didn't give us our full funding this year for our additional, called additional flight training periods. That's the money we pay our, non-full-time pilots to come in and do extra training. That dried up about 2 months ago, so we really had to pull the reins back on training. So hopefully come October 1st, we'll get fully funded again, and we'll be right back. Yeah.
Is they the state or
The feds.
Feds.
Yeah, the military is pumping money into modernization right now. So a lot of that's going to new, the new helicopters, the Navy's getting a bunch of money to fix up their fleet. Air Force is getting a bunch of, you might have heard the National Guard got the new F-15EX up in Portland, that first one off the assembly line. So that's where all the money's going right now.
You said you're out doing some firefighting. Some
Yeah,
work
yeah.
activity.
We medevac crew is leaving for John Day tomorrow to help those guys out over there. We have another one that's leaving for Grants Pass on Friday, and then we'll probably be working this weekend to get more helicopters and bucket crews in to go out and actually fight some fire. It's everywhere. It's a nasty season already. It's only mid-July.
Yeah. And it's been warm enough.
Yeah.
Just another follow-up, if you don't mind, John, any activity on the north, the big folks moving in on the north? Have you heard anything?
The Metal Innovations.
Mhm.
I have a meeting scheduled with them at the end of the month. They purchased the old Sunquest hangar. I don't know if we talked about that previously or not. So they own that. That's the amendment I'm taking to city council on the 12th, is to incorporate that property into their master lease. So that slowed their building plans a little bit because they just bought some ready-made space, but they are still working with their architect to kind of figure out what the future build up's gonna look like and how that might impact the property that we purchased, the former Hertz property. And so it's still moving along, but it's moving at a slower pace. Given that they bought an existing facility they're using really for shipping and receiving parts and things like that. So
Got it.
they are working with Aaron on fencing and access control plans and things like that. So we can get in front of some of that because we'll have to relocate the gate over there adjacent to FedEx.
In your report, and since Aaron's here, it looks like we're doing better with the security part and that.
I think we're doing good with security.
Yeah.
I mean,
Security compliance has been great. We have had a couple of minor incidents, but it's been addressed with on the spot training, so.
All the vehicular gates are now updated to 2FA, so you'd have to have a badge and a pin to get onto the airport, so that's good. That was one of our IOUs to the TSA. The virtual fence line that we're putting along the east side across Garmin we're still waiting for parts and installation, but that should happen here this summer, so that'll be another IOU that we owe to.
And there was now a number to call if the gate gets hung up.
Yep.
Anytime, day or night, or.
So really, I think since we launched air service in October, we've spent the bulk of our time just ironing out all the wrinkles now, figuring out where all the holes were in the programs, how to tighten it up and run it better. But the compliance has been really good. And actually, we were just talking yesterday, we're coming up on our first year where now badges are coming due for renewal already because we started issuing badges in August of last year. So that's next month. And so here we are. We just finished up getting, I would say, almost everybody badge, and now we're already starting renewals again. So it's resetting all over again. So, but it's going well.
Good.
We haven't had really too many problems or too much pushback. Yeah. How many badges have we issued, do you think, total?
Last I looked, we were around 800.
We guessed about 1,200, but that was only including the Garmin folks, and so 800 badges. It's a lot.
While we're on the subject of security, I'm kind of curious how it works with flight deck and like transient pilots that come in for.
Great question. We had to iron out that wrinkle.
Yeah, we did have.
Because we had pilots that were landing that couldn't get back on the airport. The gate that they used to go out, come back in wasn't accessible anymore. So.
Yeah, so really it comes down to the chain of custody, who's owning the access back onto the airfield, right? So for a restaurant customer, they come in and they talk to the server and they check in with the server, let them know that they need the code to get back out. And then after they have their meal or spend their time at the restaurant, they can get the code to go back out. if somebody were to come in off of the street and try to get a code, they wouldn't have a record that that person came into the restaurant or was a patron of the restaurant, so they just wouldn't give it to them. And vice versa on the FBO side, so somebody's a customer of the FBO, they come in, get the code, and then they can utilize that gate. For transients that aren't restaurant customer or FBO customer, they just come in, overnight. They can do a couple of things. They can call us and check in, say, hey, I've just landed. My tel number is this, I'm coming back at, whatever time. And we can give them the code, or they can do that same thing with FBO. The FBO has agreed to handle some of that for us too. So far we haven't had, I had one call at 5 in the morning. They had a mechanical issue, landed and took care of it and then spent the night. So yeah, it hasn't been a huge lift, but.
So just having the code door there, kind of like over by flight deck, is adequate for security
But
purposes.
we've limited that down to 2 gates now. So
Yeah.
there's the gate at Salem Air Center and there's one of the gates at the restaurant. So all of the other random gates that you could go into and out of, now there's signage to direct you to the limited access points that we can control. And then eventually we will be adding cameras and probably some upgraded access control feature where we can change the code daily.
And then how the code gets distributed.
How the code
or
gets
who gives it
distributed.
out.
So some of that's still in the works, but it was something that we had to tighten up because there were a lot of exit and re-entry points. And some of them we didn't realize how often they were being used until people said, hey, this gate that I have been going into and out of for 20 years isn't operational anymore. What do I do? And so we had to iron some of that out too. So, yeah.
Is that information, who to contact? Is that
Yeah.
all in like the airport? If I go to Jefferson, get the airport data, is it
Not
in
there.
there?
On the Jefferson charts. No.
No, not on a chart, but I mean,
The-
I don't know, when I was active flying, you had like a little book that had all the
Charts up on.
gas, phone numbers.
A
and-
little book, so you're stating your flight time now.
Yeah.
There's this company called Garden.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did, I know, but I'm just saying, if that's published.
It's published in the chart supplement, the FBO, the after hours call out numbers there. And in fact, I just updated the airport master record last week because we did the airport name change. I would update some other things in there as well that were a little bit outdated. And so one of those I confirmed with Ron, the after hours call out number. So it is published.
And then we have signs that are posted on.
We have signs with dates and things.
That's right, yeah, tablets were not big.
Well, they were stone, but they were.
It's going well.
Okay, thank you.
New flights are doing well. The Tuesday Burbank flight's still pretty robust, which is a terrible day to fly on Tuesday, but it's doing well. The Santa Rosa flights, I think, are getting better. They're not where the airline wants them yet.
I'm not gonna ask the question because I know the mayor didn't want to answer it, so I won't ask you.
Okay. But yeah, don't ask me anything that the mayor didn't want to answer. I probably would want to answer it either.
All right, are there any other items to discuss? If not, I believe we can adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
See you, Arnold. See you, Rob.
Take care.